The rain tasted of iron and defeat, a bitter metallic tang that clung to the air and coated the throat. Culloden Moor, April 1746. As the last desperate screams faded into the vast howling wind, a chilling silence, deeper and more absolute than any death, fell over the battlefield. The soul of Scotland was not merely defeated, it was shattered, and the thick, grasping mud seemed to swallow the lifeblood, the honour and the future of generations of Highlanders. The stench of wet wool, spent gunpowder, burning heather, and profound loss was an unbearable, choking cloud. Elspeth Macleod, barely 20, her elegant hands scraped raw, stumbled away from the slaughter. She clung desperately to her younger sister Morag, who was 17 but possessed the fierce, calculating eyes of a chieftain forced to make an impossible strategic choice for survival. Their father, the revered laird, was irrevocably gone, his final desperate command ringing in the chaos like a sacred, terrible curse: live and keep the Macleod name alive. The full suffocating weight of history, the clan's very future, rested on their young shoulders, impossibly heavy and utterly exposed to the unforgiving world. "They are searching, Elspeth. Do you hear the drums? This is more than a defeat. It is a brutal, calculated purge, designed not just to kill men, but to erase who we are entirely," Morag hissed, her voice a raw whisper against the merciless wind and the rumble of distant cavalry. "They will ban the tartan, tear down our castles, outlaw our Gaelic tongue, and crush our Highland pride into the dirt forever, hoping we forget our identity. We cannot, must not, stay together. You are betrothed to Alasdair Cameron. You are the sacred thread of continuity, the gentle and soft promise of a future where we might be sovereign again. You must live to marry and bear the next Macleod. It is your ultimate, unavoidable duty to Scotland itself, to ensure the name survives the ashes, even if the culture must go into hiding with you and the children you will bear." Elspeth's face was smeared with mud, tears, and grime, her spirit already weak and broken by the horrors she had witnessed. "Morag, I cannot abandon you. The duty is too heavy for one alone. What good is the name if the heart is shattered? We are Macleods. We stand together or fall together." But Morag's resolve was cold, absolute, forged instantly in the sight of her father's fallen, bloodied standard. Her mind, suddenly clear amid the terror, calculated the risk. 2 young women of noble blood would never survive the prescription. One must disappear. Before a flash of scarlet coats crested the ridge, Morag kissed her sister's brow, a kiss of final farewell, a severing of their shared past, and shoved Elspeth violently toward the south, toward the paths of escape and the anonymity of the lowlands. "Go, do not look back. If I live, I swear on the stones I will find you. If I die, remember the name Alistair. I will live as Alistair. I will carry the Macleod fight and the Macleod pride in the world of men, where a fierce poor courier will draw attention away from a gentle, noble lady. They may ban our kilt and our pipes, but they will never, ever ban the fire of resistance within." Morag ripped the recognizable Macleod ribbon from her hair, tore the plaid from her shoulders, and ran in the opposite direction, towards the sounds of the search. Her disguise was not merely a cloak of survival. It was a dangerous, solitary deception, a desperate act of profound personal war designed to shield her sister's life and preserve the clan's future at the ultimate cost. Elspeth fled south, transforming into Mary, a terrified maidservant who carried the Macleod future in fragile hands, hiding her noble lineage beneath the drab linens of servitude and silence, the last echo of her sister's sacrifice ringing in her ears. 7 long, brutal years passed, years under the grinding yoke of the Act of Prescription, which systematically dismantled and crushed the very identity of the Highlands. The clan spirit was officially outlawed, the land patrolled by unforgiving redcoats. But underground, in hidden glens, smoky caves and whispered conversations, the resistance lived with savage, hidden resilience. Morag Macleod was, in every meaningful sense, dead, buried under the weight of her choice. In her place lived Alistair Macleod, a grim-faced courier whose constant haunted shadow in his eyes and lean, hard body spoke of relentless danger and perpetual motion. He had meticulously erased every feminine trace, practicing a deeper voice, learning a man's gait, adopting the coarse manners of the road. He was known across the shattered Jacobite network, from the docks of Glasgow to the smugglers' coves of the Western Isles, for his terrifying competence, his ruthless efficiency, and his uncanny ability to traverse the most dangerous passes unseen. He was a living, breathing symbol of unbowed Scottish resistance. Maintaining his disguise was a daily, visceral act of national defiance, a silent war against the English who had tried to wipe out his kind. The heavy, restrictive binding around her chest was a constant, dull ache, a physical manifestation of the lie she wore. The gravelly monotone of her voice, the constant vigilance, the refusal to look anyone in the eye, these became less a disguise and more a second protective skin, shielding Morag's vulnerable heart. Every breath he took as Alistair, every dangerous mile he covered, was a fulfillment of the sacred duty she had stolen for her sister. He worked alone, travelled light, and never allowed a flicker of vulnerability. His body remained taut with the perpetual, draining stress of the lie and the fear of exposure. On one particularly treacherous run through the Grampians in deep winter, Alistair found himself cornered by a patrol in a remote, half-frozen valley. The redcoat sergeant, weary and suspicious, demanded his papers, his gaze cold and calculating. Alistair, knowing his forged papers would pass only a cursory inspection, did not meet the soldier's eye, a gesture of submission expected of a man of low rank. But his hands, calloused and steady, revealed nothing of the noble Macleod blood. The sergeant, expecting a typical swaggering resistance or a panicked break for freedom from a captured man, was instead unnerved by the courier's quiet, disciplined stillness. "You're too quiet, lad," the sergeant muttered, prodding Alistair with his musket. "What are you hiding?" Alistair simply shrugged, the small movement betraying nothing. The sergeant, dismissing the quiet figure as merely a cowed peasant, a fatal mistake born of English arrogance, waved him on, looking for a figure of greater consequence. Morag realized in that moment that her success was rooted not just in her disguise, but in the expectation of masculinity itself. A desperate woman would be scrutinized. A quiet, competent man would be overlooked. The Macleod pride was a secret strength, not a visible one. In a dimly lit Edinburgh tavern, years after the purge began, smelling perpetually of stale ale, damp peat smoke, and the heavy weight of unshed tears, Alistair met the man he loved and served. Alasdair Cameron, a great clan leader who had survived exile in France and returned, a ghost of his former self, to lead the tattered remnants of the Jacobite resistance. Alasdair was magnetic, with a natural air of command, yet visibly burdened, his face etched with deep lines of exhaustion and the guilt of a perpetual losing war for the soul of his country. "Alistair," Alasdair said, his eyes intense beneath the flickering candlelight, holding a map spread across a scarred wooden table. The lines on the map marked potential skirmishes, but also the ancient borders of a country that now existed only in memory. "The mission is perilous, requiring a soul devoted only to the cause, devoid of personal ties. You must take these funds and the last remaining clan seals north to the loyal chiefs, ensuring they know we still stand, that the leadership has not abandoned them. This is about preserving the very framework of our society, our ancient laws, our honor, the legitimacy of our lineage, the right to govern ourselves. If you are caught, you are hanged as a traitor, and your name wiped from the stone as a cautionary tale." "I understand the terms, Alistair," Alistair replied, his voice a low, gravelly monotone, deliberately flat and devoid of the melodic lilt of a Highland woman, a vocal discipline honed through years of fear. He kept his gaze fixed on the map, terrified the depth of his forbidden love, a love Alasdair could never return to Alistair, might betray the Macleod future he had sworn to protect. Alasdair leaned back, studying the reserved courier with a curious, deepening admiration that was becoming dangerously personal. "You carry yourself with a strange kind of pride, Alistair, a fierce, unwavering defiance I haven't seen since our father's generation at their strongest. The other couriers speak of gold and glory. You speak only of duty, honor, and the precise logistics of survival. I trust you utterly. You possess the very spirit we are fighting to save, Alistair. You have the Macleod spirit, whether you admit the name or not, and a knowledge of the old ways, the specific dialect of Gaelic, the subtle nuances of clan loyalties that sometimes unnerves me, given your supposed background. He then confessed the profound, debilitating ache in his heart, the burden of his clan's expectations. I still search relentlessly for Elspeth, Alistair. She was the Macleod future, the gentle continuity we need to legitimize our claim and rally the shattered clans. Her softness, her gentle nature, that is what will heal our land. The sooner the Macleods can rise again, the sooner she might return. It is my only hope, my only tether to the past. Alistair simply nodded, the dagger of the lie twisting deeper and becoming infected with forbidden longing and a terrible sense of irony. Alasdair did not love Morag, nor the fierce, battle-scarred creature she had become. He loved the duty, the idealized, gentle and legitimate past that Elspeth represented, and Alistair, the man, would tirelessly, ruthlessly help him fulfill that ideal, even if it meant burying his own heart forever. The price of saving the Macleods was Morag's identity. The northern mission succeeded against incredible odds. Alistair returned, battered but successful, only to be charged with a greater, far more dangerous risk, infiltrating London, the sprawling, treacherous, judgmental heart of the enemy, as Alasdair's personal aide, secretary, and cultural interpreter. "I need a shadow, Alistair," Alasdair insisted, his hand resting briefly on Alistair's shoulder, a touch that sent a jolt of alarm, pleasure, and guilt through Morag. "Someone I can trust with my life inside Westminster's walls, someone whose unyielding pride and strength will help me restore everything we lost and never bow before the English arrogance. Your silent dignity and fierce competence are your primary weapons in that viper's court." In London, the deception became almost suffocating, a shared confinement in a cheap, stuffy lodging house near the Thames. They shared modest rooms, dining on meagre rations in tense silence, working side by side long into the night on coded letters, deciphering intelligence, and preparing for covert meetings with uneasy sympathizers. This proximity, this forced intimacy under the constant threat of discovery, deepened the bond between them into an unspoken affinity, a shared, profound grief for their homeland, masked by the cold necessity of their purpose. They were two wolves exiled from the pack, finding solace only in the presence of the other's unyielding loyalty and silent understanding. The danger was constant. Every guard, every polite inquiry from a neighbor, every suspicious glance felt like an accusation waiting to be leveled. The psychological strain was immense. Morag had to watch Alasdair sleep, had to listen to his restless sighs, had to suppress every natural inclination to comfort or reveal herself. Her hands, which once held a delicate embroidery needle, now gripped a loaded pistol. Her mind, once trained in noble grace, was now a machine for calculating risk and escape routes. The lie was eating her alive, but it was also saving her nation. One crucial evening, they attended a clandestine gathering hosted by a sympathetic peer with tenuous connections to the opposition. The atmosphere was brittle, heavy with unspoken political threats. Alistair, ever vigilant, noticed a small, telltale fraying of Alasdair's jacket's cuff, a sign of the endless hidden poverty of exile that could be exploited by an enemy, just as a high-ranking government official, a known persecutor of Jacobites, fixed a cold, suspicious gaze on Alasdair's worn attire. Without breaking composure, Morag, as Alistair, shifted subtly, using her body to shield the floor, casually drawing the official's attention to herself, with a curt, prideful response to a question about their northern travels that conveyed both intelligence and a complete refusal to be intimidated. She spoke of the Highlands not as a defeated land, but a resting giant. Later, Alasdair gripped Alistair's arm with genuine intensity, his voice low and vibrating with emotion. "You saved me tonight, Alistair, not from a bullet, but from being disgraced. You possess a kind of fierce, innate protection that I didn't know I needed, one that keeps me anchored to the man I should be and reminds me what true honor looks like." Burdened by this agonizing, unspoken intimacy and the immense pressure of his lost world, Alasdair finally confessed the depth of his feelings one late, whiskey-soaked night, the fire in the grate casting long shadows that swallowed the truth. I had a duty to marry Elspeth, and I accepted it as my destiny to secure our future and legitimize the Macleod line. But I find myself questioning what kind of life she would truly want after all this suffering, and what kind of broken man I have become. I am haunted by the ghost of the past, Alistair. The truth, the terrible truth, is that I would abandon that duty, that ghost of the past. I would choose a future alongside you, knowing your unwavering strength, your clear sense of honor, and your fierce, unyielding commitment would restore us all better than any noble but empty political marriage ever could. You are my true north, my only tether to hope. The truth was now unbearable, a searing coal in Morag's gut, threatening to burn the entire resistance network down. If she reciprocated, she destroyed the Macleod line and their entire political cause. She ruthlessly deflected the confession, maintaining the cold, unyielding composure of Alistair. But her hand shook violently, uncontrollably, as she read the new encrypted report smuggled from Dublin. Lord Harrington, a known enemy of the Jacobite cause, held a Highland maid with details of the Macleod seal. Elspeth was not safe. She was a hostage, and the Macleod future, the very thing Morag had sacrificed her life to protect, was in immediate existential peril. The time for lies was over. The game had ended. That night, Morag shed the remnants of her disguise, the heavy, restrictive binding around her chest falling away, allowing a physical and emotional explosion of pain and relief. She woke Alistair, her long, dark hair unbound, her body finally free of its cage, her eyes burning with an authority and desperation he had never seen in the disciplined Courier. "We need to talk, now. The war is at our door and the lie is done." Morag slowly pushed up the sleeve of the tunic she still wore, revealing the jagged Macleod scar on her inner wrist, a dark birthmark only the laird's daughters carried, a physical mark of true blood and legitimate lineage. She then pulled out the clan ring on its thin chain from beneath the coarse wool of her shirt, placing it on the table between them. "I did not find her, Alistair. I am her sister. I am Morag Macleod." Her voice, though quieter, held the power and conviction of a winter storm, stripped bare of the Courier's gravelly disguise, revealing the gentle lilt of a noble Highland woman beneath the severity. "I created Alistair 7 years ago to survive the purge, to bring honor back to our name when all hope was lost, and to keep the Macleod spirit from dying entirely. I could not afford to be weak. I could not afford to be a woman, a target of duty and protection. The name Elspeth needed to survive, and the name Alistair needed to fight. But that ends now. Elspeth is at Harrington Hall. We must not let them shame our pride any longer, or compromise the lineage I sacrificed 7 years of my life and soul to protect." Alasdair stared, not in anger, but in a profound, earth-shaking shock of recognition. The puzzle of Alasdair's relentless strength, his impossible competence, his fierce cultural devotion, his silent, protective nature, all snapped into profound, painful place. The truth illuminated the depth of her sacrifice. "Morag, you have lived as a man, all this time by my side, carrying that alone, every single hour, every single mile." The realization of her selflessness hit him with crushing force. He finally understood the pride, the defiance, the deep, selfless commitment that had drawn him to the Courier. "Why did you not trust me? Why carry that unbearable burden alone? It must have been torture. You needed strength, you needed a shield to continue the fight. You did not need another woman to protect. Another burden of duty to break you further than Culloden already had," she explained, her voice softening slightly, finally speaking her full, painful truth to him, her eyes finally meeting his without fear. "But we fight as Morag and Alasdair now. We are both Macleod. We are both the fight." The rescue was executed with the deadly, flawless precision of 2 seasoned soldiers working as one, the synergy of Alistair and Alasdair finally unleashed, without the impediment of lies. Alasdair created the furious diversion in the front, exploiting his noble status. Morag, moving with the cold, lethal stealth honed over 7 years as Alistair, retrieved her worn and fragile sister from the manor's deep shadows. The Macleod name was safe. Back at the safe house, Elspeth was recovered, but irrevocably changed. Her gentle nature had been irrevocably broken by years of fear, servitude, and the constant threat of shame. She looked upon her sister with a mixture of awe and profound, guilt-ridden gratitude. "I am not the woman you need, Alistair," Elspeth confessed, her hand resting on Morag's arm, not as a sister but as a supporter. "Morag is Alistair. She is the true strength. She is the true unbowed spirit of our clan, the one who fought for the name while I hid it. She should lead. My duty is only to happiness and healing now, far from the war." Alasdair turned to Morag, seeing not the courier nor the gentle bride he had idealized, but the warrior who had saved his cause, his life, and his heart. He knelt before her, his loyalty now completely untainted by the ghost of the past, his gaze filled with awe. "You protected the lineage in a disguise that saved us all from extinction. You are the rightful leader, forged in the very fires of Culloden and in the freezing, anonymous rain of London," he declared, his voice thick with reverence and profound respect, finally accepting his destiny as her partner. "I love you, Morag. Not the gentle ideal I was expected to chase, but the fierce, magnificent woman who wears the Macleod strength like armor. Marry me. Let us restore the Macleods together, built on truth, not duty, and on the fierce, unyielding pride of our homeland that neither the English nor the years could ever extinguish." Morag helped him rise, the enormous weight of the future settling on her shoulders, but now it was a shared burden of destiny, filled with possibility. She was Morag Macleod, the chosen leader, defined by her courage, her sacrifice, and her unyielding love for Scotland, not her gender. "Yes, Alistair," she agreed, her voice firm with renewed purpose and the certainty of a new beginning. "Let us begin. We will bring our people home, and we will do it with the same pride and honor we swore to preserve on Culloden Moor. We will use the shadows Alistair carved for us to bring the sun back to Scotland." The three, Morag, Alasdair, and Elspeth, remained in London, Elspeth beginning her long road to recovery. Morag and Alasdair, now partners in truth, did not hide, but meticulously planned a political resurgence that would echo through history. Alasdair found a fierce, loyal, and insightful partner in Morag, and together they worked the shadows of Westminster, laying the foundation for a future where the Macleods and all Scots might one day walk openly in their own land again, their lineage restored by the love and courage of a woman who dared to live as a man, defending the very soul of Scotland. The ghost of Alistair Macleod, the brave courier, had finally brought them home to their true identities, ready to reclaim their future.